our follow-on from mental training at home last session, where we looked at the core elements. Today, we're looking at advanced elements that athletes can put into their weekly mental training regime. What do you think of that?
That sounds good. These are all, they're not in the core because these are things that you can add in as extras. They're like for the athletes that are looking to really become elite, these are the things that they can work on extra to sort of separate themselves from their competition.
Yep. So some of you would have heard about this stuff. Some of you may have kind of heard about it, but not given it thought. So let's get cracking. Let's get straight into it. We've got three kind of main drills that you could be doing on top of your core stuff that we talked about last time. And these three kind of advanced techniques, we're just going to group it into terms called one, mental toughness components that you can do.
Yep.
Two, introducing things like consequences and rewards, which increase the intensity of your normal training.
Mm-hmm.
And then three, using your focus in a certain way to distort and bend time and your perception of an experience. Okay, so there are three main things. Let's break them down a bit for people. First one being mental toughness drills. Mate, start off with one that I know you're loving at the moment in winter here.
So one good one, it's very popular at the moment and has a lot of benefits, is the cold shower in the morning. And it kind of kickstarts the day. And it's good to set your mindset up for the day where you do something hard really early, like, all right, this is going to suck. I'm going to do it really quickly and get through it. And it's like a little bit of a win. And you always feel great after you do it. So it's not only good mentally to sort of step up and do it, and it has like good physiological benefits and gives you, it's almost like 5 shots of coffee, just wakes you up. So,
yeah, stimulates those nerve endings.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to do to start your mindset into, this is something I need to do that might not be pleasant, but I know it's got benefits. And the benefit is that carry-on effect that it takes with your mindset into the various other hard things you need to do. Because if you want to be an elite athlete, you need to do a lot of hard things.
Yeah.
Every day.
All right. So look, I'm always going to bring our work back to people getting very practical, specific, and doing it. So how this would look in terms of your weekly training plan would be, you'll have something written out, and on that you'll say, right, I'm introducing this week a mental toughness component being 3 times this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm going to start off the day. I'm going to introduce a 5-second cold shower at the end of my normal shower. All right. That would be like a good progression point in terms of starting into this type of thing. What you do with a coach is then the coach would kind of, see where you're at with it. If you cruise through that, you might bump it up to 10 seconds. You might bump it up to not even doing the warm component before you start. Okay.
All in.
Yeah. All in. All right. I'll just say one other thing on that. With the mental toughness stuff, what we're drawing on there is this. I was educated in this in terms of the law of relativity. Sounds fancy, sounds Albert Einstein-like, but really it's a law that everyone should be very familiar with, which is basically one experience is relative to another. So when you do something mentally tough, other stuff seems easier in your mind, okay, due to that law that, hey, relative to this feels like this. So in sport, an example that we used when I was training for a half marathon, we did training runs up to 25 kilometers, even though the actual race is 21.2, I think. 21.2. And so why would we do that?
Well, adding that extra difficulty to your training then makes your competition seem a lot more approachable, a lot more doable.
Yeah.
So it's just increasing. You want to make it as difficult as possible to sort of increase your mental toughness out of competition, so then you rise to that when you're actually competing.
Yeah, and you're used to the intensity. So talking of intensity, let's go into our second point, consequences and rewards. Kick us off there with what are we looking at for people in their sporting weekly regime and adding it in.
Yeah, so this is another really important one to add in, because normally good habits that we need to do, sometimes they're difficult in the moment and they don't give us any real-time reward. So, eating a healthy meal or going to the gym, sometimes you don't get the benefit of having, a really strong body straight away. So if we can add in some rewards to sort of strengthen those habits, you're going to be giving yourself a better chance of making it like really long term. So you could do something like, all right, if I went to the gym today, I'm going to record it. Maybe I might mark it on my calendar. So then you're not only getting the reward of going to the gym, but you're starting to see, you know, a little mark on the calendar. Oh, I did it yesterday and today and or all of last week. And so you're adding in it like an incentive or reward on top of your actions. And then you'll start to get like a feeling of like, oh, I'm pretty proud of myself this month. I managed to go to the gym 25 days or whatever it might be. So you're adding in extra rewards on top of the good habits, because good habits don't always give you that payback straight away.
No, it's not great on the brain chemistry straight away in terms of the release of the chemicals, is it?
And a bad habit like eating junk food, you get the payback straight away. You're like, oh, that tastes really nice. That was like nice ice cream. And then the consequences of the bad habits, you start to see them long term. So they're the opposite.
So just like that's a real positive way of looking at that component, which I think is the place to start with it. Look, but just don't forget that one of the things we've talked about is, you know, people are more motivated by basically having stuff they don't want to have happen, you know, like, so someone might really get a good training session done because they're just disgusted with the idea of losing, you know? So that's why it is not necessarily a bad thing to introduce some consequences as well. Like an athlete that we've got at the moment, I noticed that he didn't achieve his goals last week, so he has a 5K run every morning, which he's not that keen on running. So for him, it's a consequence. For someone else, that might be a reward, you know. But for him, yeah. So you get the idea?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, mate. Moving right along here, bending time, which is what we're going to need to do to get this video done in time. So we don't want to go for 5 hours. Now, bending time alters our perception of time. We don't actually bend time itself. We're not like, you know, Pokemon time benders or something. So, mate, anything you want to start off on that?
Yeah, some people might call it getting into a flow state. And there's another book I've been reading recently by Cal Newport called Deep Work. And it's that idea of concentrating really hard on something difficult, free of distraction. And when you put your mind into that flow state or bending time, your perception of time just changes because you're completely focused on one activity. And if you want to get good at hard things, this is where you need to be. This is where you need to be spending your time. It's definitely a direct relationship with this and success in whatever endeavor you might be looking at getting better at. So this is where, as an athlete, you need to be spending a lot of time.
So, mate, look, you're going into a field of organizational psych for some stuff. Now, would you recommend, based on this particular model, would you recommend for a workplace setting to be like desks all lumped together, or would you recommend that people have their own kind of like space to concentrate on things? How does that relate, you reckon?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't be doing sort of flow state and be distracted at the same time and having a conversation and looking at emails, and text messages. They don't go together. So I think sort of communication, collaboration is important, and it needs to be a part, but it also needs to be this separate area where I can go and be with myself and work really hard
and get into that deep.
Yeah, you can't kind of meld them in. And it's hard to sort of switch between being in the flow and then doing something like responding to a text message. It takes time to get into that sort of mental space. It's not something you can just turn on like a light switch. Yeah.
And for those out there that really want to know the nuts and bolts of how all that works from like a statistical kind of breakdown of facts, there's a group out there in the world doing the Flow Genome Project. I think Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheeler are the guys. Don't quote me on that, but just look up the Flow Genome Project, and there'll be stuff there which tells you all the nuts and bolts about how it all works and stuff like that. It's quite impressive, the work that those guys are doing. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of for athletes, just bringing it back for their weekly training program. In terms of bending time, what I would say you want to do is dedicate some specific activities where you single out your focus and you minimize distractions. So little example, something I did before this session was I turned off a few devices so that I didn't have to deal with those extra bits of data that may just pop up, you know?
Yeah, they can pull you out.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to record that as well. And so you might look at the end of the week and said, okay, I did 5 or 6 hours of this flow work. And I think you'll start to notice the more hours you accumulate in this state, the better you're going to start getting at your sport and your training and developing the correct goals and the right values. Everything that you're working on will just start to get easier because you're getting better at being in this state.
So probably the best, you know, that's the best place to be in most of your life is that nice flow state. And it can only take a text message to bring you out of it sometimes, which is scary. But mate, I think that's probably enough for today. So we've covered last time, we've covered the core topics, a bit more today on more advanced things that people can bring in. So, I mean, between the 2 sessions there, you could nut out a pretty damn good mental training program for yourself. And then obviously coaching takes that to another level, which is what a good coach does. So if you've got any questions, get in contact with us and we'll get back to you within a couple of years. Easy, you know? Yeah.
We're not too distracted.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's that idea. If you can sort of commit to some of these things, it can almost become like a modern day superpower that you have.
Yep.
Because the average person today has never been more distracted, and they've never had various types of inputs taking away their attention. So if you can start to get good at becoming better at being in these states while everyone else is going the other way, you're going to be like a superhuman.
And you can practice today. You get it, like every conversation that you have, you can practice being present rather than, you know, like looking at your laptop and then talking to someone at the same time. You know,
people having conversations on their phone. The person's like directly across. So.
Or like maybe not walking as you're texting and then headbutting a pole or something, you know? Yeah.
That's the norm now. That's how people have been.
That's standard, stock standard, yeah. All right. Well, look, I'm not going to hate technology too much. I do like its benefits, but thanks for that, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.